All right, welcome to tonight's Augusta Planning Board meeting. Thank you all for silencing your cell phones. A reminder for all who will be speaking this evening to speak directly into the microphone so everyone can hear your comments. Please address all questions and comments directly to the board members, and we will attempt to have all of your concerns addressed. There are 6 items on our agenda this evening, 4 public hearings and 2 workshops. The procedure for the public hearing will be as usual. Betsy and Eva will present the application. The applicant or representative will speak next. We will then take public testimony. If you choose to speak, please state your name and address, and reminder to address your comments to the board. We will first hear from those in favor of the proposal, then against, then neither for nor against. Once all public testimony has been heard, the applicant will have final say. The public hearing will then be closed and the planning board will deliberate. No further testimony will be heard unless specifically requested by a member of the board. Betsy and Eva, we're ready.
Good evening, members of the planning board, members of the public. My name is Eva Nielsen. I'm the assistant city planner. The first item on the planning board agenda tonight is a public hearing for an amended major development and conditional use application of BD Solar Churchill LLC to amend an existing approval for construction of an 86.8 acre, 20.2 megawatt solar farm. This is Assessor's Map 7, Lot 4B, located at 139 Churchill Road in the Riggs Brook Village District, RBV, and Stream Protection 50, SP 50, Shoreland Overlay District. The applicant provided right title or interest in the form of a lease agreement with the owner, TGL Churchill LLC. The applicant submitted an application for an amended major development and conditional use review and supporting materials, including a letter of authorization for consultant representation, the amended narrative, their Maine Department of Environmental Protection, or MDEP, minor revisions, the amended site plans, and lastly, their fee payments for the application, public notice, and abutter notification. As staff, we completed direct mailings to abutters within the required notification radius of 500 feet. We posted legal advertisements in the newspaper. We notified City Council, the Planning Board, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and other interested parties, and we installed a sign on the property. So based on this review, we, as the Augusta City Planning staff, recommend that the Planning Board make a positive motion regarding the applicant's standing to apply, the completeness of the application, and the sufficiency of public noticing in order to proceed with a substantive review.
Kathy?
Move that this project be deemed as ripe for review, as all the appropriate applications and fees and notices have been completed.
Second. Thanks, Allison. All in favor? Or any discussion? All in favor? Very good, thank you.
Staff completed a staff review and a draft findings of fact and conclusions of law document for this review. We've shared this with the planning board members and with the applicant. We posted this online as well. For this application, the applicant proposes to amend the design of the 20.2 megawatt solar farm, which was first approved in 2021, with 2 extensions following, one in 2023 and then one again in 2025. As we'll see on the plans a little bit later, the amendments include removing solar racking and panels from 2 unforested wetland areas on the western and the southeastern portions of the lot. Also, the 2 north to south access roads are proposed to be shortened, which would reduce impervious by 0.27 acres. And then the snowmobile trail would be relocated to the western perimeter of the project. So I'll go through the slides that we have now. Here's a satellite image of the property. Churchill Road is running kind of north to south. It's to the west of this parcel in the orange outline. And the property is situated between North and South Belfast Avenues. Here we have a satellite image closer in. You can see another solar project directly to the north, some residential, commercial, a little bit of industrial properties in the surrounding area. I have several photos. So here's the entrance to the property along the northern boundary of the parcel. So here I'm facing northeast on the opposite side of Churchill Road. You can see that, again, the abutting solar to the north. Also, while I'm on this slide, I'll just touch upon one of the areas of comment in the staff review. So since there was an approval and subsequent extensions of the project, our Codes Bureau was able to issue a new construction permit for Phase 1 of construction, which meant the applicant could complete site clearing, earth moving, road construction, other accessory improvements. So with other reviews, we might not typically see work already completed, but this case, it was approved due to the previous approvals, and what is presented tonight doesn't alter where you see this work already completed. So here, at the same spot, just angled southeast, you can see some residences along Churchill Road. The solar panels and the racking would be behind or to the east of these properties, these residences. And then northeast again, looking through the tree line past one of the residences, and Churchill Road running north to south here. As you'll see, that you've seen on the site plan, there are pine trees 6 to 8 feet proposed around the perimeter of the solar panels, and existing vegetation is being maintained. So taken a little bit northeast again, you can kind of see some of the northern solar panels from the abutting property. And then this is at the stabilized construction entrance along Churchill Road, maybe halfway down the project, looking east into the property. And then lastly, this is actually on South Belfast Avenue, looking through the tree line where the south portion of the project could be visible a little bit. So I'll go now. This is the amended plan. So you can see where the red annotations are, where the plan would be changed from the original approval in 2021. So I'll just call out a few items. So you can see those 2 access roads running north to south. And then at the bottom here, where the red boxes are, that's where the roads would be shortened. The wetland areas here, solar panels would be removed from these areas. And then it's kind of hard to see, but there are some double hatched lines that indicate where that snowmobile trail would be rerouted. And maintained from the original approved plan is the 24-foot driveway to the gate that would be reduced to 18 feet afterward. There's a truck turnaround as well. And I'll just mention the overall wattage of the project is the same, but the scope and the scale has decreased a little bit. Okay, so just a few other notes about the amended proposal. So when the project was originally approved, it was before the city of Augusta had established the solar facility standards. So we added some notes throughout your staff review and the draft conditions. So our second area of comment on the staff review is regarding the decommissioning bond update timeline. So initially, the planning board established that the applicant would provide the initial update after 15 years and every 5 years thereafter, which is what DEP still requires. But since we have city standards now that require an initial 5-year update after 5 years and then 5 years, every 5 years thereafter, staff encourages discussion about adjusting this condition of approval. A Site Location of Development Act permit was issued by Maine DEP in August 2025. You'll see that since 2021, two minor revisions from DEP have been approved as well for phased construction. That was the first one, and then one for the amendments before you tonight. And the applicant provided staff with both minor revisions and the SLOTA. And then we provided you all with the most recent minor revision to the that was submitted to us, which is from April 2026. It references the minor revision as well as the SLOTA, or the previous minor revision from November 13th, 2025, and the SLOTA. So sensitive areas on the plan include the wetlands and the floodplains, and the impact has been reduced since the proposal includes the removal of solar panels. So a couple areas on the plan still look to be within the floodplains along Riggs Brook, but no adverse impacts are anticipated. And just to touch on the solar standards we haven't yet covered, there's underground wiring throughout the project connecting to riser poles just outside the gate over here. And the original decommissioning request, which was approved in 2021, had a timeline extended to up to 24 months following a force majeure event. So staff provided an additional draft condition shortening this decommissioning timeline to 18 months, which is what we have in our ordinance. I'll just try to breeze through our draft findings and conditions. So we touched upon, or maybe I haven't yet, the removal of the northerly fence line as a waiver that was already granted by the planning board and listed again as a finding on this approval. And then the conditions, the applicant satisfied the conditions for the DEP permitting, the merging of two lots into one, map 7 lot 4B, and the coordination with Augusta Fire for Knox Box, which has been installed following the issuance of that new construction permit for phase 1. So staff suggests 3 remaining conditions which the planning board can discuss. So number 1, a decommissioning bond has been set through Maine DEP. The updates will be every 5 years as required by ordinance. Number 3, decommissioning of the facility, including removal of all solar equipment and associated infrastructure, shall be completed within 18 months of cessation of facility operations. Number 4, the agricultural style fence shall be installed with a minimum ground clearance of 8 inches along its entire length to allow for the safe passage of wildlife. And this dimension wasn't included on the original approval, so that's why we suggested as a draft condition for you all to discuss. So I think that's what I wanted to share from a staff perspective, if there are any questions. Ed, Bob?
In regards to the decommissioning bond, the original one that was approved was the $478,662.21, and this 114 of coming from citizens is only on the first phase, if I understand this right.
Yes.
And the second phase would require a bond of $364,635.55 to cover that, so that those two equal the total
Right.
that's coming out. And the beneficiary on these bonds should be the city of Augusta also in regards to this. State of Maine's down, but the city of Augusta, we always want to be on the bonds
As
also.
an obligee.
Pardon? Yeah,
Yeah.
on that stuff.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we can open this up to the public hearing portion. Is anybody here to speak for this?
Applicant.
Oh, sorry, let's hear it from the applicant, sorry. Pardon. Let's hear it from the applicant before we open it up to the public. Add to everything, well, you can
You
feel
can
free
come
to
over
say
here.
it.
Yeah. So we had 2 months off, so.
Here we are.
Good
You still
evening.
get the last word.
I'm Sean Thies with Haley Ward.
I'm Audrey Pulio with PNRG Jericho.
I think staff did a pretty good job summarizing the project. I don't really have anything to add, but we can definitely answer any questions that that board has or anybody from the public has.
Does anyone have any questions for the applicant at this time? Bob?
Do you feel there's going to be any problem with the Citizens Bank making sure that the city of Augusta is added to both of the bonds required?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so. I have it written down to check in if two can be listed.
It is a requirement we need.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, you will have the last word
Okay.
after the public hearing.
Okay.
So feel free to sit back in the audience and
Okay.
watch. Thank you. You're welcome. Is there anybody here to speak for the project? Sure, please come on up.
Hi, I'm Mike Tracy. I live on 93 Churchill Road. Actually, I had a pretty nice picture of my garage. But I do want to thank the company. This year, I belong to the Snowmobile Club, and they were very good. We put some stakes out, and even their big construction equipment didn't run over it. So, they were very good. And we're going to be rerouting the trail. I do have a question. And it refers to, I did hear something from somebody that there was an incident in one of these solar farms where a deer jumped and got caught in the fence. And I'm just curious if we could have an opening or maybe a couple of openings to let the animals through. Maybe it's a safety issue for them. They don't want people in there vandalizing, which I can understand that. But they could do it 4-foot fence, a section where there's a 4-foot fence and the deer could get over that. And I don't think, most people aren't going to try to climb over 4 feet. I don't think. But I can understand the vandalism side of it. But I'm curious, we have deer that come in our backyard. And I mean, I can see the construction, I hear the construction. And I'm concerned about the animals. I think fox and coyotes, they'll all get through, and other animals. But I'm just concerned about I wouldn't want to go out back and see a deer hung up in 7-foot fence. And that's, that's my big pet peeve, I guess. But other than that, they've been really good. And I guess the panels will be up within the year probably, so.
Sure, I took your question down and we'll have the applicant speak to that at the end.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, thank you.
Is there anybody else here that would like to speak for the project? Is there anybody here who would like to speak against the project? And is there anybody here who would like to speak neither for nor against? Okay. Applicant, why don't you come on up and maybe you can take a stab at the question that was proposed.
So openings in the fence, I believe it's the electrical code requires a continuous barrier, and it requires, I believe it's a minimum height of 7 feet. So we can't have openings, and unfortunately, we can't have lower sections. I haven't heard of incidents with, I guess, animals getting stuck in the fence. I've heard of incidents where potentially deer could get trapped inside and not be able to find a way out. And we have had in other municipalities sort of a contact number or whatever, similar to like a maintenance plan, that if somebody notices that, to contact and then to come and open gates or something like that to try and get the deer out. But unfortunately, the code requires the fence in a minimum height.
Do you, just for my knowledge, do you post that contact information along the fence? How would, if someone was to observe
Yeah,
it?
so the gate, right at the main gate, there will be signage for contact, phone numbers and things like that, names of people to contact in case of emergencies.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I appreciate the board hearing us, and again, that's There's not a lot of change here of what we're asking for, and it's really just reductions for more than anything.
Any other questions from the board for the applicant before we close? Yep, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we're reviewing another solar project that'll come before the board, and this sort of question about the deer was addressed in there. And yeah, they can't, as Sean says, you need to have the 7-foot fence, but one sort of workaround is you could have interior berms so the deer could get on a berm and jump out potentially, but that wouldn't cause an issue for safety from the outside for somebody getting in and causing a concern. So I don't know if that was a newer recommendation that I had seen, and it seemed like it could be
That
an
is
option.
something that we could do.
Yeah.
Try and find us
just to
one or two spots where we
Right,
could build
just
up on
build
the
it up
inside
a
of the
few
fence.
feet, yeah, just enough so they could jump out. But in the letter, it was from IFNW, and they said, they're constantly evolving on their evaluation as to how to, work with wildlife with the solar, because obviously this has happened before, and how can we fix it in a way that is safe? So, yeah.
Any other questions from the board for the applicant? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Close the public hearing portion and look to hear from board members. Kathy?
Okay, I'll start. My only question when I first read it was if some of this chain link fence is already existing, how are the animals going to get out? I know they're going to attach this fence to an existing fence. So does the existing fence have the space underneath?
It's an agricultural style fence. There was the waiver for the northern fence, where this fence could,
So that's the only place we're adding the, okay, that's right. Okay, gotcha.
What are your thoughts on the project?
On the project? Oh, that was my only question. Now I'm fine.
Otherwise, it's good. Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Thanks for putting me on the
Yeah,
spot.
you're welcome. Ben?
I'm good with the project. It meets our standards, and I think Haley Ward did a good job putting together the packet, so I'm for it.
Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, I'm all for it. The amendment seems pretty minor compared to what's already been approved, so.
Thank you. Bob?
I'm in favor of the project. I'm glad to see it finally coming in the fold. If they can get the thing completed. It's been one of the longest ones without being started yet. So I'm definitely in favor of the project.
And Allison?
Absolutely in favor.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'll attempt one here. Pursuant to the provisions of the City of Augusta Land Use Ordinance, the City of Augusta Planning Board has considered the application of BD Solar Church Hill LLC, including supportive data, staff review comments, public hearing testimony, and related materials contained in the record. The Planning Board makes the following findings of fact and conclusions of law. The project description is the applicant proposes to construct 86.8 acres, 20.2 MW solar farm on vacant land, which consists of a mix of agricultural fields and wooded areas. Solar panels will be mounted on fixed rack systems, which have ground screws for anchoring to the earth. Site access is proposed from Churchill Road at the northern portion of the site, that's south of the solar farm built by the same developer. Access roads are proposed to be 18 feet wide, gravel, and the entire project fence with a 7-foot high agriculture-style fencing. A hedge of evergreen trees is proposed between the residential properties along Churchill Road and the development. The snowmobile trail will be relocated to the west of the fenced solar farm. No development is proposed to the east side of the Riggs Brook. The applicant is BD Solar Churchill LLC. The right in interest is a lease agreement with the owner being TGL Churchill Road LLC. Again, owner is TGL Churchill Road LLC. The location is 139 Churchill Road, Riggsbrook Village District RBV, and Stream Protection 50, SP 50 Shoreline Overline District, Tax Map 7, Lot 4B. The existing land use is solar energy ground-mounted large-scale conditional use. Proposed use, solar energy ground-mounted large-scale conditional use. In this, in view of the board of the above actions and the application and supporting documentation in the recent, the planning board makes the following recommendations and conditions in law. Therefore, the planning board hereby approves with the following conditions the application of BD Solar Augusta LLC as described in the findings above with the additional findings. The planning board has approved the option for the applicant to eliminate the northerly section of fence along the access drive, provided permission is granted by the abutter to the north to connect the applicant's agricultural style fencing to the abutter's chain link fencing. Four conditions were placed on the original approval listed below, with updates provided where applicable. The following conditions shall be met prior to the issuance of a permit from the Code Enforcement Bureau in order to satisfy land use ordinance criteria and planning board requirements. Number one, issuance of Maine Department of Environmental Protection, DEP permits 300-404-B-19 and 300-603-E-5-A. Maine DEP issued permits on August 15, 2025. A minor revision for phase development was issued on November 13, 2005, and subsequent minor revision for the proposed, my tongue's tied here. Minor revision for the proposed amendments were issued on April 3rd, 2026. All approvals were submitted to the planning staff. Tax map 7, lot 4B, and map 11, lot 22, shall be combined to form one lot, 300-603E16A. This condition is satisfied. The assessors have updated the records combining the tax map 7, lot 4B, and map 11, lot 22 into a single lot, now designated as tax map 7, lot 4B. The following conditions shall be met prior to the issuance of a permit from the Code Enforcement Bureau in order to satisfy the land use ordinance criteria and the planning board requirements. 1, a decommissioning bond has been set forth through Maine DEP and required by the City of Augusta. Updates and the amounts for the decommissioning bond is $114,026.86 for phase 1, and the amount of $364,635.55 is for phase 2 for a total of $478,662.21. And the beneficiaries are both the State of Maine Department of Environmental Protection and the City of Augusta. Coordination with the Augusta Fire Department for knockbox, Section 300-603E3. The condition is satisfied. The applicant installed a knockbox before starting work on the site following the issuance of a new construction permit for phase 1. Decommissioning of the facility, including removal of all solar equipment and associated infrastructure, shall be completed within 18 months of cessation of the operations, Section 300-527-1E. And the agricultural style fence shall be installed with a minimum ground clearance of 8 inches along its entire length to allow for the safe passage of the wildlife, 300-527.1.A.1. Number 5, there will be several berms installed within the structure at a height to maintain and allow the animals means to egress the project if needed. The project shall commence within 2 years of this approval and shall be substantially completed within 5 years of the date of the planning board decision unless a permit Extension has been granted by the board. Deviation from this approval is subject to the code enforcement action and potentially legal proceedings per section 300-601 of the land use ordinance. I hope I got everything.
Kathy?
I just have a question about the berms. 7-foot fence, how high do the berms have to be so they can jump out? They obviously got in, so it doesn't seem as if they have to be that tall to get out. I'm just wondering if we should give them any guidance as to how big the berms need to be.
Was that articulated in your previous conversations, Beth?
I'd say no. I mean, I think just a few feet would be, I mean, yeah, I think they could probably figure. Yeah.
4 feet?
I could jump out of that. Yours.
Accept that amendment.
Any other comments to the motion? Is there a second to the motion as, go
I'll
ahead.
second it.
Okay, as amended. And any discussion? All in favor? Very good. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Betsy Poulin. I'm the city planner. And the second item on the agenda is another public hearing. It's a conditional use. It's the application of Smithtown 4 LLC, Glen Garrett, to convert a portion of the second floor into 7 residential apartment units. This is Assessor's Map 34, Lot 34, located at 221 through 237 Water Street in the Kennebec Business District 1, KBD 1, and General Development Shoreland Overlay District, GD. The applicant has provided a deed for the form of right title of interest. They submitted the application forms for both the conditional use and shoreland zone application with a letter of authorization for Jim Coffin of Coffin Engineering to represent them for the meeting. They've submitted their application for payment for both applications and abutter notification fees for property owners within 500 feet. They have their narrative addressing the ordinance requirements and plans, which address the required site elements. So planning staff determined that the application was complete, so we distributed the application to the planning board and posted it on the city's website. We mailed the staff the public noticing as outlined in the ordinance with the direct mailings to abutters within 500 feet, 2 legal ads in the newspaper, notified city council, planning board, board of zoning appeals, and other interested parties, and installed signage on both sides of the property. Staff, we recommend that the planning board make a positive motion regarding the applicant standing to apply, completeness, and sufficient public noticing in order to proceed with a substantive review of the application.
I move that we find the application is complete as the applicant has sufficient right, title, and interest to apply and has submitted all necessary materials. Staff has provided the abutter notifications as required by the ordinance.
Catherine, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Very good.
All right, so as I stated before, this application, staff review, draft finding of facts, and conclusions of law have all been posted on the website for the public to review and distributed to the planning board. So the request is for a conditional use and shoreline zone review because the applicant's proposing to convert a portion of the second floor, which is above one level above Water Street, into 7 residential apartments. The building already has 9 apartments on the top floor of the building, which were approved by the planning board in 2014, I believe. Whoop. Yeah, 2014. So I wrote 2024 in there. I'll change that. The second floor currently has some office space that they'd be converting into residential, and there still will be office space in that floor. Also, there's mechanical equipment that would be servicing these apartments is proposed to be relocated above the 100-year flood zone because that would be required as part of the ordinance for those keeping those, all the residential components of the proposal out of the flood zone. And the applicant also would have license agreements for a dumpster and propane tank enclosures that are proposed in the back of the building on the Front Street right-of-way. They're already, those things are already there, but this would dress it up and keep those elements protected and also keep them out of that traveled way of the Front Street. So up here on the screen, I've got an image that shows where the property is located. Obviously, the Kennebec River's here in the middle. This yellow here is where the building is located. There's Water Street here, Commercial Street here. This is a Calumet Bridge, and we are right over here right now. So the next image, you can see this is the back of the building. So I've got Water Street behind me. So in your packet, I put some cute little arrows on there that show where the building starts and ends, because it's a little confusing because there's a lot of different facade materials here to know where the building actually is. So it's in this area here. So at the back of the building, there's a sub-basement here, there's a basement, and then this is the first floor, which is along Water Street, and then this is the floor where the actual apartments would be. And then this top floor here already has apartments. Also back, this area here was all at one time part of the Augusta Parking District, but that's no longer, and this land is all City of Augusta. So owned by the City of Augusta. Back up here, I'm looking to the south. There's Memorial Bridge in the background. So this area right here is actually from the building all the way over to here is the Front Street right-of-way. In this image, they were doing some demolition, so there's a dumpster here for that. But the thought is that having enclosures would obviously make it look a little better and keep dumpsters out of that public way for safety purposes. So a license agreement would be established to better delineate where the right-of-way should be kept clear and where those features could be added. This is looking back to the Kennebec River over here, so that whole parking area. And this is where the electric comes into the site, into the building. Moving a little farther down Front Street towards the south, this is where the dumpster is located now, and it would be brought back over towards the building. This is the back of the Front Street entrance into the building. Right here. Here I'm looking more towards the north, so this is where the Kushnock building, so the enclosures will look kind of similar to this. And they'd go around these propane tanks and also around a dumpster area to contain those. This is up on Water Street, so I'm looking to the north. So the building is in here. This is the more southerly doorway that comes out onto the sidewalk that accesses the apartments. And up here's the other doorway, which is the main entrance, which says 227 Water Street, right here. This is a building plan, the site plan for the property. So this lighter color in here is where the applicant's land is here. This is Water Street over here, the Blue River's the blue. And it's a little hard to see, but that's where those enclosures would be for the dumpster and the propane tanks. And as I said, yeah, the Front Street right-of-way is here, and that all the parking out here is open to anybody to park there. There's no parking permits required anymore, so the conversion of apartments in the downtown doesn't require any parking. These plans show the existing footprint for the building. So Water Street's here and Front Street's over here. So there's a stairway here that goes down towards Front Street. This stairway goes out to Water Street. There's an elevator here. So this shows the proposal of where those apartments would be located. So I guess, it meets all the standards that it needs to. Obviously, there's a few grandfathered things for the shoreland zone. There's more than 70% impervious because the whole site is building. There's some historic preservation certificates that'll be required for the dumpster enclosures, and also any changes to the exterior for mechanical, to move some of that equipment up onto the roof. That'll require review. The applicant's already submitted that for the review. The meeting will be upcoming. Let's see. Don't think there was anything else. There's already existing sewer water to the site, and there was adequate capacity. There's no real disturbance on the site other than those enclosures, which is pretty minimal. So for the floodplain, the elevation of the 100-year floodplain is 31.4. The Water Street floor level is 36.9, so that's about 5 feet above that flood elevation. So the next floor where the apartments are going to be is clearly outside the flood zone. It needs to be over at least a foot above for zoning requirements. I think that's about it. I just had the two conditions about the historic preservation certificate and establishing a license for the enclosures. Any questions?
Any questions for Betsy? And is the applicant here? Oh, there you are, snuck in the back.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. Jim Coffin, Coffin Engineering, representing Smithtown 4 LLC. We're converting commercial space to 7 residential units on the second floor, and we're putting in 2 enclosures in the rear. Those 2 enclosures will, as Betsy said, stealing my thunder, take care of the dumpster.
I forgot, I didn't get to those, your pictures. There you go.
Thank you. And we're going to look a lot like Kushnock's enclosures, just keep everything the same and not make things look different down there. They have a nice enclosure. So the dumpster, and then the 2 propane tanks, along with the natural gas service entrance. Other than that, we go to the Augusta Historic Board in 2 weeks. So I'll entertain any questions anyone may have.
Any questions for Jim? Thank you. You'll have the last word.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here who would like to speak for the project? Anybody who would like to speak against the project? Is there anybody who would like to speak neither for nor against the project? Thanks, Jim. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, that'll close the public hearing portion. Let's see what the board thinks. Allison,
I think it's great, no problem.
Kevin,
Yeah, I think it's a good project. No concerns.
Ben,
No concerns. Happy to see this applicant continue to invest in the city of Augusta.
Likewise.
and Bob.
No problems. Glad to see the project and more housing down there.
Is there a motion? Allison.
Concerning the application of Smithtown 4 LLC pursuant to the provisions of the City of Augusta Land Use Ordinance, the City of Augusta Planning Board has considered the application of Smithtown 4 LLC, Glenn Garrett, including supportive data, staff review comments, public hearing testimony, and related materials contained in the record. The Planning Board makes the following findings of fact and conclusions of law. The request is for a conditional use review as per section 300-603.e. The applicant proposes to converting a portion of the second floor above Water Street into 7 residential apartments. Mechanical equipment servicing the apartments is proposed to be relocated above the 100-year flood elevation. License agreements for dumpster and propane tank enclosures are proposed within the Front Street right-of-way. The project is located at 227 Water Street, actually 221 to 237 Water Street, in the Kennebec Business District 1, KBD 1, and the General Development Shoreland Overlay District, GD. It can be found on Tax Map 34, Lot 34. The existing and proposed land use being requested is multifamily dwellings, which is a conditional use in this zone. Based on the information before the Planning Board, including the findings of fact and conditions of law detailed in the staff review, applicant's submittals and testimony, and all other related materials contained in the record, I move to approve this request. There are no additional findings. The following conditions shall be met prior to the issuance of a permit from the Code Enforcement Bureau in order to satisfy land use ordinance criteria and planning board requirements. 1, a historic preservation certificate shall be obtained for changes to the exterior, including enclosures for dumpsters and/or propane tanks, as well as any HVAC equipment on the roof or walls of the building, C 300-603E1A6 and 300-603.E6E. 2, a license shall be established for location of dumpsters and propane tanks servicing the building which are located in the Front Street right-of-way, C 300-603.E6A and E. The project shall commence within 2 years of this approval and shall be substantially completed within 5 years of the date of the planning board decision, unless a permit extension has been granted by the board. Deviation from this approval is subject to code enforcement action and potential legal proceedings per section 300-601 of the land use ordinance.
Is there a second to the motion? Kathy, thank you. All in favor? Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is another public hearing. It's a general rezone. It's the application of Bale LLC, Chris Pazek, to change the zoning from rural village RV to planned development PD district for 3 lots. This is Assessor's Map 80, Lot 9, 9B, and 9C, located at 605 and 611 Civic Center Drive and 508 Old Belgrade Road. So the applicant provided right title or interest in the form of a deed for this parcel reclassification application, and they are representing themselves, so there's no letter of authorization. They paid the application and abutter notification fees and provided narrative addressing the ordinance requirements as well as plans for a proposed development on the property. Planning staff determined that the submission was complete, so the application was distributed to the planning board and posted on the city's website. Staff completed the public noticing as outlined in the ordinance, which for this, I know most of these, I think it was 1,000 feet. We'll say as per the ordinance. And which also legal advertisements in the paper, which this one had to be 2 weeks ahead of this meeting. So there was a meeting, one on 2 weeks ahead of time, and also another one on Friday's paper. The notification was sent to the City Council, the Planning Board, Board of Zoning Appeals, and interested parties, and signage was installed on all 3 sides of the property. So as staff, we recommend that the Planning Board make a positive motion regarding the applicant standing to apply, application completeness, and sufficient public noticing in order to proceed with a substantive review of the application.
Like to make a motion? Or comment?
This is a little different than some of the projects because it's not a project, it's just a rezoning. So do we still do the same motion that the application is complete?
There is an application so, yeah.
Okay. I move that the applicant has right title and interest to submit this project for review by the board, and that the application is complete and all the required notices have been issued.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Very good.
And I was correct, it was 1,000 feet. Couldn't find my paperwork right off the top of my head. So as I said, this is a little different, as Kathy said, than some other project reviews that we do. So this is a parcel reclassification. Usually there's two different types of applications that could happen with this form, either a contract zone or a general rezone. A general rezone is basically moving the zoning district line boundary on the property. So in this case, the planned development district is to the south, so they want to just move that line to include these properties, which is the general rezone. Like a contract zone would have some special standards, say for Capitol Heights, the height was going to be allowed to be up to 85 feet. So that would be a contract zone. It would be just specific to that site. So tonight, what the planning board is doing is reviewing this application, and if you feel that you need more time to discuss this, we could do that at a future meeting. I did put this on as a public hearing. But if you decide that you want to make a recommendation to City Council tonight, that's what the motion would be, to make a recommendation to City Council, for the rezone or not for the rezone, whatever the board chooses. So as Kathy said, it's a little different than a planning board, like a project review. The general rezone would be to shift the zoning line of the planned development district to the north to encompass the entire block between Civic Center Drive and Old Belgrade Road. The zone change would allow the medical clinic land use as a conditional use on the site for redevelopment, which is what the applicant is hoping for. So up here on the screen, there's an aerial that shows where the property is located. It's that little dot here in the middle. So here's the highway, the hospital's over here. This is Old Belgrade Road, and then it hits Civic Center Drive right here. And then there's a little bog road is right here. The applicant, which I just realized I didn't put it in here, he had a really nice graphic in his application, sort of a bird's eye view that showed where some of the medical facilities and whatnot are, which is all on the website as well. So this area sort of has a mix of, it's all types of land uses out here. There's a little residential, there's some commercial, there's some retail, there's some warehousing, there's medical, there's industrial, there's solar, there's all sorts of things out here. Going to the next slide here. Okay, so I thought I had one zoomed in a little bit more. These show some of the context of the neighborhood here. So this is Old Belgrade Road right here, and this is Bog Road that's coming across here. So in the background here is the site. So if you kept driving on Old Belgrade Road here, you'd hit that light over on Civic Center Drive. So this is a single-family house that's owned by the applicant. That would be included in that rezone. So that lot right there is currently Rural Village District that would be rezoned potentially to Planned Development District. Moving down the road, this is still Old Belgrade Road, so I'm at the driveway here into the site. This is looking sort of towards the highway direction on Old Belgrade Road. Bog Road's crossing there. Looking across the street, you can see there's a little bit of residential over there. And we're panning over towards Civic Center Drive is in the background over there. This is looking into the site. So looking over here are buildings over on Civic Center Drive. This building over here is a former Doc Hollandaise restaurant. And now I'm over on Civic Center Drive. This is looking to the north on Civic Center Drive. So these lights here are the signalized intersection with Old Belgrade Road and Wilson Street. That's Precious Little Ones Daycare, which I know some of you have, that applicant came to the planning board a few times, so you're familiar with that site. And then this is looking more towards the south on Civic Center Drive. You can see there's adequate utilities. There's three-phase power on most sides of this property. There's access to public sewer and water as well, and natural gas. This is looking into the site with Civic Center Drive behind me, the former restaurant. And now I'm over at, this is Civic Center Drive here and Bog Road right here. So this is a little one-way connector from Civic Center Drive I'm panning towards the north. So Civic Center Drive's over there, and this is Bog Road here. Looking up to that intersection, there's like a blinking yellow light here. And up at that intersection. So this is Old Belgrade Road again. Here's a zoning map of the area, the little yellow dot here in the middle. So this is where our site is. So it's this sort of tan color here is Rural Village District. These are RR District, which is Rural River. The purple here is Industrial. This red is Planned Development District. This green here is Contract Zone. Planned development, and then the blue here is all medical districts. So you can see this is just sort of an intersection of a whole bunch of different zoning uses out here. This is a graphic from the applicant that sort of zooms in a little bit better to show what that change would be. So this is the existing conditions, and then it would be changing this whole area into a planned development district. The applicant provided a concept of something that they hope could happen on this property if the rezone happened. As I stated in the description, looking at, there's 5 criteria for rezoning. Some of them are, what are the land uses out in the area and how would that change? Both the rural village and planned development district are very mixed use type of districts. The planned development district would allow some more uses than the rural village district, including medical clinics, but it also keeps a lot of the same landscaping standards as the rural village. So aesthetically driving by, you wouldn't necessarily see that difference because it'll still be, since it's a little more of a rural-ish kind of district, that it still has highly values the aesthetics of the site. So that wouldn't change. As I said, this is sort of a, if the zone changes happens, the applicant could come back with this. They could come back with something a little different, but they just wanted to provide a concept for what could happen out there. And then this is a little graphic I got today. So Civic Center Drive, Old Belgrade, and just how those buildings could potentially look on the site and maybe have a, sort of a gateway, it is one of the gateways into the city, Civic Center Drive and Old Bell and that intersection. So as I said, any parcel reclassification has to meet 5 criteria. Number 1, the rezoning shall be consistent with the 2023 comprehensive plan and any plans or policies subsequently adopted by the city. So the applicant provide detailed answers to all these questions, which I won't go over, but in the staff review, to give you all some information to make your decision, I said the proposals in the northern subdistrict of the economic growth area in the comprehensive plan and general land use categories map show the area as mixed-use area with industrial and commercial areas in close proximity. This northern subdistrict of the economic growth area lists expected uses to be retail services, offices, medical, recreational, industrial, restaurants, government, high to medium density residential, mobile home parks, and appropriate areas. So they said it kind of covers a lot of the things that the planned development district also includes. And number 2 criteria to look at is the rezoning shall be consistent with established land use patterns. This region of the city where Old Belgrade Road, Civic Center Drive, and Bog Road intersect has a mix of land uses including residential, commercial, religious activities, daycare centers, retail, medical, warehousing, and light manufacturing. And as I noted before, the landscape standards are very similar for those 2 districts. And number 3, the rezoning will not create an isolated district unrelated to adjacent districts. It's basically just moving the zoning lines, so it wouldn't be creating an isolated district. And number 4, adequate utilities, roads, and services must exist or must be provided. So as you saw from the pictures, and you probably all have driven through here a few times, the lot is proposed to be rezoned or along roads with high traffic volumes and multiple vehicle access points. Emergency service would have easy access to the site. Our city engineer, just noted that obviously this is an area that we would need to look at fairly closely for how the traffic is entering and exiting and the traffic volumes and all that. Once it gets to some sort of a site plan review, we'd get a little more detail in that, but DOT would be very involved, with this process. It is in the urban compact, but this is something that the city would definitely work closely with DOT just to make sure they aren't causing any, concerns or higher crashes, that sort of thing. Utilities, as I said, there's services available for all the utility services are available on this site. And then the fifth criteria is the rezoning is justified by a change or changing conditions. Obviously, development in the North Augusta area has been primarily medical, governmental, and retail facilities. The development of Exit 113, the hospital, and the direct roadway connection on Old Belgrade Road to Civic Center Drive are highly traveled areas with easy access to resources. The applicants intend to develop the site with medical services land use, which would complement other facilities in the area. So that's all I have. Anybody had any questions for me?
I've been trying to parse in my head the results of a decision. Say we decided to go ahead with a rezone. It could come back with any number of different uses, correct? We literally have no project to look at.
Correct.
Site plans are all just hypothetical. The rezone is a little different than some of the things that we've looked at before, as I mentioned. It seems to fit the 5 criteria. What options do we have once we have a project in front of us, though? Say, you said it's the same landscaping as RV. I'm not sure how to formulate my question, really.
I would say, I mean,
Side to it. I guess that's my question.
basically, if the zoning changes, any development on there would just be following the zoning that's in place. So we would follow all the same normal processes that we would for any planning board project. If it's development review, we'd have all the same site plan review criteria and everything. So I think the rezoning here in this situation since the rural village and planned development have very similar landscape standards, it would just be, there'd be different uses allowed on that property. And I think since, the redevelopment of the site, pretty much anything that would go out there, unless it was a single-family house, would come back to the planning board, unless it was just a couple residential units, would come to the planning board for review.
Any other questions for Betsy? Are you okay at the moment, Kathy?
I'm okay.
Okay. All right. So, Chris, if you'd like to come up and speak to the project.
Thanks for the opportunity to come in and speak with you this evening. So I've actually owned the site I bought it from Gardner Savings back in 2012. It was a foreclosure when purchased the Doc Hollandaise parcel, and then a couple of years later purchased the ranch house and land from Jackie Gates. There actually used to be a mobile home on the rear of the site that we tore down. And the intent has always been to redevelop the site, and we realized early on, and we were hoping to be able to take advantage of what was going on with the hospital, the new hospital at the time, and but the zoning didn't work even back then in 2012, and so we pivoted, looked at different uses, and so this has been under contract a couple times now for a gas station use, and it just hasn't worked out. Dealing with nationals and whatnot, just it hasn't happened, and I recently made the decision to go back and capitalize on what we think the market really is for this parcel, which is medical uses. It's sandwiched right in between the hospital and then on Civic Center Drive at the entrance to Commerce Center. There's a couple different medical uses there. 442 Civic Center Drive also has medical use in that. And in my day job as a commercial real estate broker, what I've been seeing is that there is demand from medical users and medical adjacent users who want to own their own property or have their own building. They don't want to be part of a larger complex, and thus the design that you see up on the screen. So that is my intent to move forward with this project. I think that that's where we're going to have the most success, but I can't move forward until I know that I can get the approved use on this site, because I'm going to be spending a lot of money on permits and approvals. And it's going to be a long-term project. I can't see, because we're going to have to get DEP permitting as well. So it's probably going to be sometime in 2027 before we're actually even have shovels in the ground. But this is the first step, is to be here tonight. And hopefully the city sees this as an opportunity to clean up what frankly is an underutilized property. The buildings on there are old, and the entire site needs to be redeveloped. So here to answer any questions you might have. And
Kathy?
Would tenants actually own their own lot? Or are you
potentially, so
build to lease?
it's going to be a couple different, there's going to be a couple different options. It's going to be a quote-unquote condominium development, so there will be condominium pieces of land that a user can, there will be design standards in place to be able to build the type of building that they want to build. And they can either ground lease the land, own the land, and build their own building, or potentially I end up developing the buildings for them.
So potentially, we'll see this project come in, if it's approved, piecemeal,
It will be in phases.
in phases?
Yeah, so you'll see, the idea is, or I shouldn't say the idea, the plan is that the infrastructure will all be laid, the paving, landscaping, signage, it'll be permitted for, it'll have traffic movement permits in place to be able to, and I think you can see, I don't have a curb cut on Civic Center Drive. DOT, I've already had some preliminary conversations with DOT. They really don't want people even making rights in and rights out on Civic Center Drive. They want the entrance on Old Belgrade Road, and then there's a way to make lefts in and out. If you look on the site plan, you'll see there's a left in, left out on Bog Road.
Yep.
And there's but the main entrance would be on Old Belgrade Road. And there's actually already an existing turn lane into the site. It would end up being modified from exactly what it is today. But I think that the entrance will look pretty similar to what you see there.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time? All right, you'll have the last word, Chris.
Sounds good.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak for the project?
Hello, everybody. John Bluen from Lair Realty Partners. We have the property just adjacent, listed for sale as a commercial property. And that is in the district that they're here trying to get put into that district. So I think it just makes an awful lot of sense. There is certainly a need for people that are looking for a property like this, especially with the close access to the main turnpike. It looks like a very well, on the up here, the PD, the one that is in the RV and then the PD, that's the property that I have listed for sale. And there's also the possibility that there might be some joint cooperation or separately that's listed, but it's an ideal site and it's very much needed. I also represent a property at 5 Community Drive that is 12,000 square feet, and it is condominiumized. So the section that I have is 12,000 square feet is Capital Gate LLC, but in that same building is Dr. Berube, the Financing Authority of Maine, and the Maine State Employees Association. So it's a good concept. It's one that's needed. People are constantly searching for one-level sites for their businesses of all sorts. So it seems like it's very well done and needed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak for the project?
I also want to mention that I did speak to the sellers, Pamela and Ray McCutcheon, today on the phone, and they're in favor of it. I sent them the information, and they said they were very much in favor of it also, as abutters.
Thank you, John. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak for the project? Is there anybody who would like to speak against the project? Is there anybody who would like to speak neither for nor against? Chris, you have the last word.
I
Got it.
appreciate the opportunity heard.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, that'll close the public hearing portion of this item. So let's hear what everyone has to say. Bob?
I'm in favor of the, making the recommendation, and I think we can move forward tonight. I'd be in favor of moving forward tonight, making a recommendation to the City Council to change the RV to a PD.
Thank you. Allison?
I agree.
Kathy?
Me as well.
Ben?
Agreed.
Kevin?
I also agree.
All right. For process, is there any discussion? Okay. Is there a motion? Sure, Bob.
I recommend that this RV parcel reconstruction to PD has met the criteria for this change. And this recommendation is to the City Council.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Kathy. All in favor? Okay, thank you, very good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is also
Surprise.
a little different than our normal.
How'd you group them all together in one night?
Well, yeah. So this is a preliminary review, which is something the planning board usually just
Not so.
goes right for the project review. But this is a preliminary review of Farrington School proposed additions and site improvements. This is Assessor's Map 59, Lot 12. This is located at 249 Eastern Avenue in the Institute Business and Professional Subdistrict. So this particular project, the applicant is, I guess, a school department. It's a City of Augusta project. There's requirement to have some input, from the planning board before this could potentially be on a ballot for a referendum. So this is that sort of initial review by the board, So as I said in my staff review, kind of review memo, it's just like a preliminary meeting. And I went through some of the basic standards that the board would typically look at, the zoning, this is it's a permitted use out here, so any expansion would easily be permitted with zoning. This was reviewed by the planning board in '86 for a special exception permit when the first school was first built out there. I have some lot characteristics for the BP district in here. Impervious surface ratio, floor area ratio, maximum height, front road setback, side and rear setback. All of those are met, with this proposal. So there didn't seem to be any concerns with those broadly. And then also, as staff, we've been sort of following along with what's happening with the proposals, just to, if there's any concerns that we see, just to make sure there's adequate utilities, is all the traffic being addressed, that sort of thing. So we have been sort of keeping an eye on it to make sure there aren't any big red flags that would come up, or make sure it doesn't move too far down the path in the wrong direction for something that might potentially not be approvable by the board. So this is just, as I said, kind of a general overview. We'll have the applicant talk about it as well. But they, this obviously would come back to the planning board when they're ready and have their full plans together and everything.
I have a question about what the previous permitting was that required a special exemption.
That, it was just called that type of permit at that time in that zoning district. In 86, it could have been a different zoning district. I mean, they were all different land uses at that time.
So it may or may not be applicable today.
Oh, no, now it's a permitted use. So that was what the permitting required at that time for that location for this use. But a special exception, they were a lot more common back then, yeah.
That answered my question.
Yeah, yeah. Up here on the screen, the applicant had provided some images. Here's the school. This is Eastern Avenue right here. The darker color here is the existing building, and these brown are where the additions would be. This is the Story Walk Trail that comes over from Coney Street up above. And then there's an entrance here that goes into the school now. So the thought would be that there'd be parking that would you could kind of come in here, out here for parking, but then there'd be a parent drop off and a school bus drop off. So to separate some of those circulation things with vehicles and kids in this area. And then there's some elevations. So I'll just leave it at that. And the team is all here and can talk about it in a lot more detail with you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that process is just having them come up and speak right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll let us know exactly what they need.
Thanks, Betsy. Good evening. I'm Doug Reynolds with LJB Inc. With me tonight is Robin Tenenbaum of CHA Architecture, John Stonier from the school department, and Mr. Tracy, the superintendent, is over there. Again, like Betsy said, this is basically just a sneak peek for you guys to see, take a look at what we're doing. Again, we don't expect any red flags, but to involve you in the process. Again, most projects, again, you can have the preliminary meeting, then you go to sketch plan, then we go to site plan. We'll absolutely be doing that process. As Betsy mentioned, there's going to be a referendum in the fall to determine if the project is going on. One item that Betsy didn't mention is Hussey School is going to be closed completely, right? And the students are going to be within the district, and we're getting more students here. So again, there's going to be an increase of students from about 310 now to 525. So there's an additional 200 students. So again, just more to just have you look at it, have you see it, have any concerns. Again, Betsy mentioned the bus looping, and there you go. Thank you.
You could drive, yeah.
It's one of the significant site aspects of it is currently there's just one driveway. This driveway over here does not have access to the school, but the school owns it by easement, or actually the school owns it, and the church next door has an easement to access through there. So again, we're going to try to make a counterclockwise circulation where most parents and staff come in this driveway, park in front, the parents drop off in this loop, and this drive over here is only going to be for exit and for bus access.
Okay.
It's a big deal now from schools to separate that bus and student drop off. Again, too much in the news about bus and students, and we want to stay away from that as much as we can. We had an original concept, I think staff saw it, where we had two parallel lines where the buses were closest to the school going in the same counterclockwise, and then the students, the parent drop-offs were behind it. And again, we got looking at that and it's like, no, we want to separate those completely. And we've had success with that at a couple of other schools around the state. Again, we'll come in, full planning board review process. This is going to go to the Site Location and Development Act permit, as well as a DOT TMP permit. So again, we're here, ask questions, we'll be back again. And again, that'll likely happen timing-wise. Again, positive referendum in the fall. We'd likely be back here, sketch plan-ish January, hopefully site plan February/March.
Okay.
So again, Robin can go over the elevations if you guys want to look at the elevations, absolutely. But I tell you have a question already. So to us, this just is an open quorum. I mean, if that's allowed at the planning board, again, we've met with staff, we've met with fire, we've met with police, we've met with, engineering, public works, those type of things, previous to now. Had some concerns brought up with them, we've addressed them. So again, that's what we're here for now. Again, just so you get used to us and see us again.
Thank you, Kathy.
I just had a question about the other driveway that you haven't been using, that you're going to use now. You said you're going to use that as an exit?
Yep,
So the church has an in and out there?
yes.
So this will just be during school hours?
Yeah,
It'll be an exit only?
it's not a one-way, if that's what you're concerned with.
Kind of, yeah. Well, I'm not concerned. I'm just trying
It's two-way, definitely down here. It's only one way at where the buses are.
Okay,
And we are reconfiguring it so that the church has a stop sign. So again, it's not, we're not going to have the stop sign as the buses, the church will. But again, there's not going to be any significant crossover of the church with the school.
This looks like an exciting plan, moving forward for the city of Augusta. I got several questions. Just, how many students are in Hussey that's being closed?
We're currently around 240 students,
And
and the school is full. We've got it.
school's full for there. Now they're going to be dispersed out to this school and some other schools?
They would go to this new site.
So the 240?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
excellent. And the other, how many projections are for the 3 and 4 year olds? For the kindergarten?
I think this is on me. So I just want to add one thing to that. When we talk about the 525 students that the school will be serving, that's a projection in 10 years. So,
Okay,
and this is a state-funded project. This has made the state's list of capital projects that needed funding back in 2017, 2018. It takes many, many years for the districts to get the call because the state waits for their bonding capacity to fill back up. So Augusta got the call, I think, summer 2024. So we've been working diligently for a while. And because they take the long view, fiscally responsible, we look at enrollment projections 10 years out. So what's interesting about that 525, and I will get to your question, is that it reflects a decline, an anticipated decline in enrollment at this age of about 12% over 10 years. This is not unique to Augusta. This is not unique to Maine, it's in the news. But it also, on the one hand, we have fewer students coming in, but to your point, we're bringing in the 3 and 4 year olds. So there's going to be a little bit of a leveling out of kids who are actually in the building at one time. Off the top of my head, I believe the population for 3 and 4 year olds is around 140. Does that sound right to you, Mike? It's a prediction, but it's based on a tried and true formula of the number of anticipated kindergartners and then working back percentages of those.
Excellent. I do know that the process for school approvals takes many years. Just to get on the list is one thing, but then to work down the list to become available for those things. It's all very interesting. And the other thing, I was very happy to hear that the state's funding the school on that.
We're all happy.
And not the city. even though we need teachers and everything to do that type of thing. I don't have any further questions. I'm excited to see what happens.
Great. Allison?
I just wonder when Huzzy is projected to close.
I'm going to say, and I'm going to look to Mr. Tracy to support me, that we anticipate this school opening in the fall of 2030. That's our anticipation. And so I would assume the alignment, that would be the closing date.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
That answered my question. Thank you very much, Allison.
Any other questions?
Takes a while to start it, takes a while to finish it, too.
Yeah. It is a multi-year process.
And she said 2030, we're 26 right now, right?
Yeah, halfway through nearly.
And these good folks have been on the application since the early teens, I think, so it's a good thing.
Thank you for coming before us.
Thanks
Pleasure.
for your efforts on this. Are we just high-fiving at this point?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. all right.
May I add something? So we brought the elevations. I know that's not technically as much your purview, but it's fun to have pretty pictures. Just so you know, there are three substantial additions to the building. The building is currently about 48,000 square feet. That includes 2 floors of classrooms. The additions will total about 30,000 square feet. So fairly substantial. There will also be fairly substantial renovations to the existing building to rearrange rooms, to bring certain areas up to current standards for special education, for administrative suites, nurses, things that weren't as thought of when this was built in 1988. And the aesthetics of the building are that basically the exterior will be masonry. We're looking at using a base of a ground face block, which matches what they have now, and then a lighter color brick above. You'll see some metal panel accents and a regular window language. It's pretty straightforward. It's been an interesting challenge because if you can picture the existing Farrington, it's got a lot going on. There's some stripes and added elements and so forth. So it's been a fun process, but we're pretty comfortable and happy with where we are.
Thank you.
There it is. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to seeing you guys again.
Likewise. Have a great evening.
Should we hold on to this? Should we have this for the next 10 years?
I know, I'm like,
They may
maybe it'll
change,
get
too.
revised. Yeah.
May change.
Yeah. I'm not going to.
Okay.
All right, so we have 2 more items on the agenda, which are both workshops. The first one's a workshop that's amendments to the land use ordinance regarding shelters. And then the second one is a workshop for amendments to the land use ordinance regarding residential land uses at street level in the Kennebec Business District 1, KBD 1. For both of them, we have Matt Nazar, Director of Development Services, because he was at City Council when these were sent to the planning board. So he is our resident expert, and he wrote all the information for these. So take it away, Matt.
Betsy. Board, Chair. Matt Nazar, Director of Development Services. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm always excited to come see you all. The first item on the agenda is, as Betsy mentioned, discussion on homeless shelter changes to the land use ordinance. The City Council went through a long process with a subcommittee that they had of the City Council that I staffed along with Corporation Counsel in order to write a homeless shelter licensing ordinance. And as part of that whole licensing ordinance process, which I believe you got a copy of the licensing ordinance that the council has already adopted, so that you know exactly what types of things they're going to be looking at as part of their licensing process. They also had a number of things that, because this is still a use in the land use ordinance as a conditional use, so anybody who wants to do a homeless shelter in the community would have to come to the planning board first, then go through a licensing process with the city council. They had a number of things that they thought were important to potentially add to the conditional use criteria and different zoning districts in which they thought that these uses could potentially be expanded to. There's a question as to whether or not anybody would potentially actually build something out in these areas where the city council was suggesting adding because of the distance that they are. However, the city council thought it was important to add opportunity to those who might want to construct a shelter and provide that opportunity in some areas where they thought were acceptable. But they obviously, as changes to the land use ordinance, these come to the planning board for a public hearing and for workshopping first, and then for a public hearing and recommendation back to city council. So you've got the council order. I basically parroted the council order in my memo because it was relatively clear as to what it was the city council wanted the planning board to take a look at. As I said, they're looking at potentially adding shelters as a conditional use to the Riggsbrook Village District, Rural River District, Rural River 2 District, Medical District, and Kennebec Locks District. They talked about adding requirements to the conditional use criteria that would require an appropriate planted buffer or fence between the shelter and any use within 200 feet of a side or rear property line on any newly proposed shelter property via the conditional use criteria. So they were interested, and I could talk about each of these criteria if you want to as we move forward, and I'm done talking about them as to why these things came up and what the city council was thinking about when they suggested these. Require adequate and appropriate outdoor lighting on a newly proposed shelter property with the conditional use criteria. Require an appropriate smoking area on any newly proposed shelter property with the conditional use criteria. And enact a requirement that all new shelters requiring new construction be on lots of a half acre or larger. And actually, number 6, which is not properly in order there, require all shelters in both new or existing construction to be set back at least 50 feet from the side or rear property line. So what the planning board what the city council was looking at on most of these that are relatively open for the planning board to interpret during the conditional use criteria or conditional use review, the appropriate planted buffer or fence, adequate outdoor lighting, an appropriate smoking area. What the city council was looking at on those was simply to ensure that those topics got talked about and got some level of consideration by the planning board during the process. Since they all sort of fall into other criteria if you wanted to talk about them, but they aren't necessarily items that are guaranteed to be discussed. So the council thought that those were important items that they ensure were guaranteed to be discussed. The way to add these, if the planning board wished to recommend that they be added, would be to add, what I was thinking about was essentially a subcategory of criteria in the conditional use section, and those criteria would apply just to shelters. Fairly straightforward to add into the conditional use criteria. The other items here with respect to size of the lot, that would be something that probably would be worked into the land use table or someplace else in the land use ordinance that we can recommend before it gets to a public hearing if you'd like. And then require all shelters in both new or existing construction be set back at least 50 feet. That again is something that would potentially go into section 5 of the land use ordinance, the use criteria.
And so I was wondering if it sort of would be like solar has special standards. Like it would be a section kind of like we have for solar now
Exactly.
saying, oh, for solar, you're going to do these extra things as well. Like we'd
Yes.
have another one right after solar that would be like the shelters and
Shelters.
have, you're looking at these specific criteria.
Yep.
We did the same on blasting, correct?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, blasting's a whole separate,
Because we had special deals with setbacks and everything there.
There's a whole ordinance.
that's in
by
the code
itself.
of
Yeah, I think that Betsy's hit the right mark there with the making it similar to solar.
Right.
And just simply having the added criteria for shelters. Fairly straightforward. I can answer any questions. I see some.
Kathy, go ahead.
He had
Or
his
Ben,
hand up
go ahead.
first.
Oh, thank you. So here under, Matt, if you see here under chapter XVI, which is 14, sorry, 16, my apologies.
Yeah,
Homeless shelter licensing.
licensing, yep.
Yep, under the last paragraph here, homeless shelter may include, that, was this written by council?
Where are we?
Bottom of the
At
first
the bottom
page.
of the first page, chapter 16, homeless shelter licensing, first
Yes.
page, bottom, last paragraph.
Yep.
Do you see where it says, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences down, quote, homeless shelters may include?
Oh, just to.
Yeah, there's an extra may include there. Yes,
Was
there
this
is.
written by
Just a typo.
council? Was this written by council?
Yes, it was.
Well, they're not, we're paying them too much. I'm just kidding, by the way.
We're not gonna.
I'm just teasing. So yeah, eliminate that, please. And then also low barrier shelter, second page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down on the second page,
Okay.
where it says low barrier shelter.
Yes.
My apologies. This is what I do all day at work, is look through reports and compliance documents. So criminal background checks,
Yes.
passing a sex offender registry check.
Yes.
And credit checks, all that definition of low barrier. Is there anything in this document that outlines proximity to schools? Because if not, we should have council look back at that. If you're not screening sex offenders, there should be some distance between the schools and these facilities. Especially like you have marijuana businesses that
Yeah.
can't be certain distances
Yeah.
from schools. I think that's, parents would have that concern.
Can't answer that off the top of my head. I can tell you that this particular ordinance, the homeless shelter licensing ordinance, which is already adopted by city council, the language is already adopted. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I knew there was something in there. I just couldn't remember where it was.
Okay. So there is,
Section 190-452.
thank you.
So is on setbacks. I don't have, I provided this document as reference so that the board would have an understanding of what the council has already adopted. And so that this particular document was about 4 months in the making and about 10 meetings and Corporation Council spending an immense amount of time and wordsmithed very significantly. So the language that's in here is, with the exception of the may include, is something that I think that the council and the subcommittee and Corporation Council probably don't want to open back up right away.
Okay.
So our focus right now are just the
Yes.
6 items that you want us to
Yes.
just really hone in on. And just
Although I do appreciate the may include. I will bring that up and we'll see if we can
The goal-
correct that on a Scribner's error.
I was just teasing, of course.
No. I like the, I don't want to have, correcting grammar is always a good thing.
Yeah. I think that I'm satisfied with the questions you asked, especially 190.454.
Yep.
That satisfies the question about, like not doing background checks for sex offenders and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Everybody deserves a place to stay and opportunity, but yeah, just there's precautions in place.
So the 6 areas that are outlined here, allowing shelters as a conditional use in the Riggs Brook, Rural River 2, Medical, and Kennebec Locks, those are not downtown
Correct.
locations. How are people going to get there? I think that the transportation project at the council was defunded, wasn't it? As a result of the budget talks?
Yes, although that is something that is still in motion. as to whether or not that moves forward through another process, transportation.
I would say in this, what Matt was saying, those districts, it's adding on to ones where
Correct.
shelters are currently a
They
conditional
aren't
use.
replacements.
I understand that.
Okay,
because
yeah.
They are allowed in other parts of the city.
Yeah, so,
I'm just concerned about how people would get to and from.
Yes, the conversation that the city council had about that, and the subcommittee started it, and the city council had it in greater detail, was that these were areas of additional opportunity, and if a shelter operator didn't believe that they could make it work, they wouldn't propose it there.
Request it.
Okay.
We're just not looking to limit opportunity.
Right, right.
Bob?
And who came up with the 200-foot distance on that? Why 200 feet?
Number 2.
Yeah. That item and that distance was chosen by the subcommittee, just as a number that seemed to be a good distance.
All good policies decide.
It was looking for some level of buffer between, or some level of distance between neighboring properties and providing a buffer if they were closer than that distance.
But this only applies to those districts?
No, this would apply to all of the districts, all of the districts. If there is and it only applies to a new shelter that is constructed. So if you're going to construct a new shelter, then that, or newly proposed shelter, not just new constructed, but newly proposed shelter it could be in an existing building, but that you would have to have buffering or fencing if there was another use within that distance. If there's another use that's further than that distance, the council and the subcommittee felt that it was a far enough distance that the impact was not substantial enough to require the buffering or require the fencing.
I'd say this particular standard might be a good one to have repeated in the land use ordinance as well, just because a project would go through the planning board first, I presume, and then go
Correct.
to licensing. So this might be one that we would also duplicate list, I guess, basically.
Yeah.
So the planning board is aware that we're looking at making sure that with the siting considerations and neighborhood compatibility, that it's meeting that, yeah.
So in other words, like
yeah.
we could state minimum 200 feet.
Well, I don't know about changing from their distance, but
Okay.
So
This is
even if we
within 200
approved,
feet.
say we approved this, we would still have an opportunity when an actual project came in
Right.
to give a different guidance, is what you're saying?
You could, if something were proposed, if it was a required, this language certainly says require an appropriate planted buffer or fence between the shelter and any use within 200 feet of a side or rear property line. If there's some other reason, then it certainly would be possible to do something different. I mean, it depends on, certainly if you have the circumstances of the site are different or are unique enough that you need something larger or something taller, something, yes.
I'd go along with same with the 50-foot setback. That's I know it's in there, but is that a minimum or we could do the same thing, correct? I understand the lighting and smoking because several of the projects mention smoking very, very dearly.
Vehemently.
They're even going to put up smoking sheds, but
I mean, I think any of this land use would be a conditional use, so you're looking at it specifically for the location it's in. So some of these standards would probably be minimum, and depending on the situation you're in, maybe you need more of something, like any conditional use. So the planning board would be looking at that in detail and determining if something extra is needed.
Allison?
One of the things that I found, Matt, in the Lewiston ordinance that I really, really liked was in the good neighbor policy, which I realize is not a part of the licensing. It's presumably going to be part of what we look at when we look
Right.
at the conditional use. But it seems to me that we do need to have something specific in terms of how much is the neighborhood and where is this good neighborhood policy going to start and finish? I don't think it should just be the abutting neighbor. I think to protect the neighborhoods, we need a wider area for some sort of good neighborhood policy or good neighbor policy.
Well, and the city council's, the subcommittee's attempt with respect to with respect to these land use ordinance proposals and the licensing ordinance that they adopted was an attempt to essentially codify that standard as much as possible, rather than, and they did start with Lewiston's ordinance. That was where we actually
Yeah.
started, was with Lewiston's ordinance.
It requires
An actual good neighbor policy.
for 1,320-foot radius.
Yeah.
It's a big area, and that may be bigger than we need, but I think we need something more than just the house next door. So there's got to be some sort of give and take there, and I wonder if this is the appropriate time to talk about it, or is that something that we hammer out individually as we go down the process? I guess I'd like whoever comes before us to be aware that this is something that's important to us. By the same token, if someone finally is asked to leave the facility, is there a procedure in place for that to happen so that he doesn't just leave and walk through the neighborhood and be very distraught and, so there are a couple of things.
There's a real challenge that obviously that was faced both by the subcommittee when they were looking at this and trying to figure out how to potentially regulate it and how to manage it. And then obviously that would be a part of any review as well.
Right.
Once an individual leaves the property where the shelter is, the shelter loses any control over the individual. The shelter, if the person decides to wander 600 yards down in one direction, screaming and yelling and throwing things, they unfortunately, the shelter doesn't have any control over that. It becomes a police matter.
I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that, because when you look through the licensing rules with all the contingency plans they need, there could be plans that say, we need to call 911 because this person is clearly distraught. They're leaving here with their hunting knife.
There are plans that are outlined, but I guess the question is to what extent can they actually control that? You're right. There are plans they have to put in place.
What are they going to do? They're not just going to sit back on their hands.
No. Absolutely not.
They're gone. They're not our responsibility.
No,
It's going to be in their operational plans.
Yep, it is absolutely in the operational plans, but if something happens 500 yards away that they're unaware of, there's nothing they can necessarily do about it. Certainly if somebody leaves, brandishing a knife and screaming, yes, certainly their duty is to call 911. And I believe the licensing standards are outline that requirement. So that is, yes, there is a plan for that. But it's, to the extent that the planning board would necessarily be addressing it in the land use section, the goal of the subcommittee was to try and get some of those things into the licensing ordinance and have it be part of a licensing process so that if there is a problem, there's the opportunity for immediately addressing the issue. As you're aware, obviously, if there's a land use violation, the remedy is court, and it can take forever.
Yeah, we're not talking about land use violations.
Correct.
We're talking about the response to the
And we're
clients
talking
with
about conditional use, making it fit into the neighborhood and making the neighborhood be comfortable with its location. So I think it belongs under the conditional use consideration for us.
Describe to me what it is, just to make sure I understand what we're talking
Well,
about.
I'm just talking about the fact that all of these, we've seen some homeless shelters in my time, and all of them talk about that good neighbor policy.
Yes.
And I think that the good neighbor policy needs to expand. It can't just be the immediate neighbors. It needs to be the neighborhood so that people who live there are taught to respect the people who are around them in many different areas.
Could the neighborhoods be defined by project? by location?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they could, but I just guess I want to be sure that we have that ability to fit it into the neighborhood. in
Our
that way.
ability to review if someone proposed something, to,
Right.
like, say we agreed, we don't want to be backed in a corner to say that we
Need 1,000
blanket.
feet, yeah.
Right, we blanket
Right.
everything for everything.
Correct.
But if we agreed on this, but also had some sort of opportunity to still review each project on a case-by-case basis to make sure that it truly does fit what you're expressing,
So,
is that an opportunity? Can we get an answer, Ben, before you chime in?
There is a section in the licensing ordinance, and I'm sure you've probably read through it, on page 4, that talks about processes for governing communications with neighboring property owners and addressing neighborhood concerns. That was intentionally inserted into the licensing section of the ordinance with the intent that that would be something that would be reviewed during the licensing process and would be part of the licensing requirement. So that if there were problems, there is a process in the license itself where there can either be an immediate stop, an immediate pulling of that license,
Cease and
or an
desist?
immediate, and an immediate review by city council, depending on the nature of the infraction that is associated with the license. So that was definitely something the city council subcommittee was very aware. I'd say that was their primary focus was the neighborhood concerns that might come up as a result of a shelter, and really is the intended area that is being addressed with the license itself. That all of these standards put in place to ensure that the operation is run safely and that there is a connection to the neighborhood are all part of that licensing process in an effort to reduce the burden on the planning board having to do that and having to figure each of those out on a regular basis. That it would then be the city council itself that would do that process in a public setting, and an opportunity for the neighbors to have any concerns and make that part of the licensing process at the council level.
Do you have the horse before the cart? If you're saying it comes to public, planning board first and the license second?
Not necessarily.
Neighborhood is concerned, they're gonna come to us with these concerns.
Yep, and
We're
you
not-
can.
And we're saying, it's gonna be up to the license process?
Yep, you can
I mean-
appropriately say that will occur at the licensing level.
Don't like that.
And if they don't get a license, they don't move forward.
Yeah.
I think-
Again, I think you're putting the horse before the cart.
Yeah, I think, it sounds to me like we could continue with the conditional use process that we have, and that add a condition, that if we feel that this neighborhood is such and thus, and it's bounded in such a way that it makes it important to be specific about what we're asking for them, I think we can. We can say, we want this neighborhood from State Street to Water Street to Chandler Street to Winthrop Street. That we consider your neighborhood, that you need to deal with as a good neighbor policy.
Yeah. And that's justified under, I mean, there's been Supreme Court case on this in 2024. So I think that
So I
it
think
comes
between
under
the
our
two
purview.
things, we could make that work. Our conditional use and then the licensing piece.
I have a follow-up
As long as
question.
we don't tie the city council's hands when
Right.
it comes to licensing. That's the only thing that I'd be concerned about with that. Otherwise, I think it's a great idea.
I have a follow-up question. So I've read through most of what council has put together on the homeless shelter licensing. Is there anything in here or existing regarding, so City of Bangor? There's extensive issues with homelessness, especially camping in public places. Actually, it got so bad that they just passed city ordinance to stop putting,
What's your question, Ben? Sorry to
in public
move that along.
places. Is there current land use ordinance currently to prevent basically people from blocking sidewalks, from camping out in public spaces.
The council's.
Not land use ordinance items, but there are code of ordinance items that the council has very recently adopted, yes.
Okay, I'm just asking because I would rather see that put in place before it becomes a major problem like Bangor. It's a significant issue.
Yeah, the council adopted an ordinance last week that was put in place immediately with respect to a variety of loitering and a couple of other nuisance items. You can take a look at the language that was on the council agenda last week and see what they adopted.
So back to this item, what's a good path forward? What are folks settling on?
I'd say just going back to that operations plan, like with the solar, we ask that they submit a copy of their maintenance and operations plan so that the board can see that. I don't know if that would be something the planning board would want to see as part of the land use criteria. It's as you said, it's kind of, council will be addressing it, but like, it covers a lot of the items that are potential concerns that could come up as part of the conditional use review. So I don't know if.
As added material, but not anything that we need to.
Well, I don't know, yeah. I mean,
The question,
how it falls, yeah.
Yeah, the concern that I would have is, and perhaps it's something that I can come back, because I hadn't really thought much about that topic, beyond what we had here is, I share some of what Kathy had said as a concern with respect to potentially tying the council's hands in the licensing process. If you've already got a land use criteria, a condition of their land use approval that is extremely closely tied to the licensing standards that are already in the licensing ordinance. And then you get to the council level, and the council has 6 different things than the planning board had that they want to connect to the license, or there's something in the land use approval that doesn't match their licensing requirement or their licensing standard. And I'm concerned with an overlap there that could create a problem in the licensing process. Certainly, I know the intent of the council when they put this forward was that those really sticky issues that have occurred in a couple of the last reviews would be something that would be codified into the licensing process and reviewed at the licensing level, so that the licensing, so that there's a standard in there that the licensees, first a couple of reasons. So there's a standard in there that the licensees, the applicants, would understand they'd have to comply with, and so that there is a method of enforcement that is much more responsive than a land use violation. In other words, if you have a conditional use standard or a conditional use, condition of a conditional use that an applicant isn't meeting, someone fails to meet their conditional use standard that you've placed on them. You've placed every time you have a conditional use that you review, there's a set of potential conditions that are associated with that. If somebody violates one of those conditions, the only way to enforce them is to take them to court. And that can literally be a 1 to 3 year long process. If somebody violates a condition of their license can be pulled immediately. So it's a much more immediate way of addressing a problem, and that was what the council and corporation council were trying to address, with the understanding of having watched the process a couple of times with the planning board and heard the concerns of the public, trying to make sure that there was a method of being able to deal with those concerns more quickly, more immediately, and more decisively than having to go through court.
So if that's the case, why don't you just make it a permitted use and you need a license and you've got it all in one place? You say where they're permitted and you need a license, and these are the performance standards to get a license.
The council felt that it was still important to leave it as a conditional use. They did discuss that as a possibility. They discussed the idea of making a permitted use and simply having a license there.
Why did they go this route then?
There may be other issues besides just the neighborhood. There may be issues with respect to traffic, with a variety of potential issues that might come up that the conditional use criteria they thought were important, outside of the neighborhood compatibility issue or the neighbor's concern.
It just seems to me any of those could be written into a licensing requirement.
They already exist in the land use ordinance. And the council doesn't feel that they necessarily had the expertise that the planning board has on all of those land use type issues. They did feel that they had the expertise on constituent issues, neighbor issues.
I guess I go back to the same thing, it's the neighborhood compatibility that Matt's talking about stuff. We cover it very extensively in part of our application process that's gone through here. Part of this is, does it affect the value in the neighborhood? Does it do these other type of things? I'm just trying to make sure we're not fighting each other on these things, that we're asking for stuff or we shouldn't be asking for stuff. And how do we answer the public when they come to us and they say, okay, you're not doing it for the shelters, but you're requiring it in all these other projects. Are you going to take those projects and do the same thing? I don't have the answers for that. I'm just, the question, it raises the question on the public's coming to us for an opinion and our findings, and we specifically asked to look at the different things that are out there.
Other land use items we look at too are presence of water and sewer, capacity, and
Oh, yeah.
I think we should try to avoid at all costs having something that's going to be overturned at the council level and use that as an excuse not to give a license to somebody that we've ruled they meet the ordinance.
Are we passing the buck on something that we've decided in the past? We now want to pass the buck on to somebody else?
So the neighborhood compatibility criteria, the intent of the subsection is to encourage the applicant to design a proposal in consideration with the physical impact it will have on the immediate neighborhood within 500 feet of the property in the urban area and within 1,000 feet outside the urban area. So your distance of neighborhood compatibility is there. Is the proposal compatible with and sensitive to the character of the site and the neighborhood relative to land uses, architectural design, scale, bulk, and building height, identity and historical character, disposition and orientation of buildings on the lot, and visual integrity are elements of the site plan, buildings and circulation, designed and arranged to maximize the opportunity for privacy by the residents and of the immediate area. Will the proposal maintain safe and healthful conditions within the neighborhood with criterion, which this criteria.
That's a good one. Are we going to be asked to avoid?
What's that?
Safety and health conditions of the neighborhood?
With safe and healthful conditions.
Right.
And shall not be limited to the standards affecting safety and health outlined in this chapter. Additional regulations are found in the Code of Ordinances. All of these standards in neighborhood compatibility, a lot of them, like I say, the council does not feel they have the expertise to review. These are absolutely the things that the planning board reviews on a regular basis, and you guys are very familiar with, but they're very, very associated with the physical characteristics of the site. Safe and healthful conditions is typically considered things like traffic and things like sanitation and garbage and those sorts of things, as opposed to somebody doing something illegal. The assumption is that people are going to do things legal. It's hard to assume that that people are going to, because of the nature of the business itself, are going to do things that are illegal.
What was the distance you said within urban?
Yeah,
500
urban is 500.
And outside was.
Outside is
So
1,000.
it gives us the numbers.
So
Yeah.
500, could you repeat that piece again?
Sure.
Sorry.
The neighborhood for neighborhood compatibility, a neighborhood is considered 500 feet of the property in the urban growth districts, urban growth area and districts, and within 1,000 feet of the property if it's in the planned use, or planned development and rural districts.
In rural village. And this is allowed in rural.
So if we don't, it sounds like there's still a lot of conversation and some questions and like what's a good path forward, knowing that it seems like as written, there's still some questions that
Yeah.
people don't feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
So what's the best way that we can, yes, acknowledge this at face value, but there's still more questions? That we also, like to Kathy's point, to Allison's point, to Bob, everyone has had a good point. Like what's the best way that we can maybe revisit this or?
Yeah, I'd be happy to come to another meeting, obviously, and for another workshop. Excuse me, is there anything specific that, from a neighborhood compatibility perspective and neighborhood concerns, that you'd like me to explore so that the board could have something more
Maybe the
in what the realm
process,
of what it is you're talking about?
it seems like the process is clunky. Like if someone was to come to us and.
The neighborhood compatibility
and then it
process is
goes-
always clunky.
Always.
Neighborhood compatibility's been clunky since I've been here.
So if someone came and we're approving a project and then I get, then they have to go before council and then council doesn't, or maybe say council doesn't agree with the plan, then it's dead in the water. I guess I'm thinking about time. Is that good use of everyone's time? Is that, if people, two public hearings for the same thing?
We're sending the mixed message.
Yeah, I just feel like that part is what I'm describing as clunky, the process. And that's two separate meetings, two separate, yeah. So I think you get what I'm saying.
I'd say, could Corporation Council give us a little more information about how to smoothly interface these two,
Sure.
maybe?
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
to
We want them to be on the same team.
work
and set people up for
together, not,
success.
yeah.
Right. Not my team against your team, or good
Right,
luck.
right. And honestly, it happens all the time, because there are all sorts of businesses that have to get licensed, that come to you first. But they have to end up getting a license then from either the licensing board or city council.
Not as many now.
There's still quite a few, victualer's license and a variety of others, so.
But they're permitted uses now in different places.
Or some of them are conditional uses as well. So there is a mixture. And certainly ones that have to, if they're coming before, if they're going to be building something, they end up having to come before you for a site plan review, either way, which is what this would as well. Not only is it a conditional use, if someone's building a new building, obviously they're going to have to be before you on a site plan review as well.
Are there any new construction projects for shelters in the state of Maine?
Shelter homing, there is, right?
I don't know if there are. I haven't
Most
done
recent
an
one was
inventory of shelters. I'm not sure.
I just want to also ask again, definition-wise, and pardon my ignorance, in case I'm leaning that way. Homeless shelter is one definition, low barrier shelter is a different definition.
It's a
There's-
subset of shelter.
So I just want to make sure that, are we just saying homeless shelter per definition and not all of those other different types of shelters too? Because I understand that the level of care, supervision, and all that varies amongst shelter type.
Yep.
So I just am asking that too.
The city council on this had not intended to change the definition in the land use ordinance from just shelter, which is slightly different than the licensing ordinance. There are also shelters that don't require a license and would potentially still require a land use approval.
Okay.
What kind of shelter doesn't need a license?
Domestic violence shelter?
But these are specifically excluded from this.
Correct. They're excluded from the licensing, but they're still a shelter. So if someone was going to want to do one of those, they should
still
be
come.
getting a conditional use approval from you all.
Okay.
So that's one stop. They'd only come here.
On page 2 at the top, it talks about
The
BV.
exclusions, yeah. Okay, well, do folks kind of agree with that then? It seems like we would like more information as it relates to process. And
Sure.
I know that that's annoying, Matt,
The
because it
overlap.
seems like,
Any areas of overlap between
yeah, areas of
planning
overlap.
board review and
Yeah.
the
See if this can
licensing
be-
review.
And the good neighbor policy, in terms of the 500 feet in the urban
1,000, yeah.
compact and then the 1,000 feet for rural, and then planned development. I think it's RV, rural village. I'm just wondering if we feel that it should be more feet in the urban compact or the rural village and planned development.
Well, I think
I wanted to ask that too.
it seems to me that we already have some numbers in there that we're comfortable with, and there's, like you said, Bob, let's not just throw out some numbers because
Right.
they sound good.
They have to fit
they
into
have
our
to fit,
standard.
yeah.
They've got to show that
Yeah.
they can fit it.
Yeah, so
Is
I
that
don't,
standard? Do you feel comfortable with that?
I have PTSD reading licensing rules, you know.
What's that?
So, oh, Bob?
so we'll hold on to this.
I can come
I
back
think-
to the next meeting.
I just would like to have us move on to the next workshop if we can. And this stuff, I think Matt's got enough directions and
Sure.
catching everybody on that stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you
We
very
need a
much.
little bit more information to get comfortable because
Yep.
we want to play nice.
Right, and we can save
done
what we
great.
got
Thank you, Matt.
tonight.
Oh. Thanks. Next item. This is, the city council placed a moratorium on first floor residential that has, actually, let me see what, did we include the language of the moratorium in the,
Did, yeah.
That's it.
yeah, that's not it. I've got the wrong one in front of me. That's the shelter one. So the planning board, the city council placed a moratorium on ground floor residential development of existing commercial spaces within within residential districts such as KBD1, which has shown to supplant existing commercial uses. So this is within the KBD1 district. City Council Augusta moratorium placed on residential development within the KBD1 district attached here 2 is hereby adopted by reason of and recited the recitations above. That moratorium was written by Corporation Counsel, and I would need to take a close look at that again. But my understanding of it, my intent with it, was that it was a moratorium on housing in the KBD1 district with frontage or with the business front onto Water Street. So those spaces that open out onto Water Street, a current moratorium on residential development for those frontages, not for upper levels, not for the back portions of buildings. And then some discussion by the planning board as to how or if to move forward with a recommendation to prohibit residential development in those spaces, and if there is a particular amount of area, the front half of buildings, the front third of buildings, the entire first floor of buildings, that the planning board might recommend to the city council for adoption of some changes there. The thought process is certainly LD 997, which was passed by the legislature this last year, it was really intended to encourage housing everywhere. And you'll see some changes that will come to you, Betsy and Eva will bring to you on a couple of different laws that were passed by the legislature, LD 1829 last year, a year and a half ago, and then an amendment to that one that was LD 2173 this year. So now we have some good guidance from the legislature as to what those are going to be. LD 997 was another one with respect to there are communities out there that are much more prohibitive than Augusta is as to where housing can go. But there was also some recognition by the legislature that, particularly in downtown areas, that it was important to allow municipalities to restrict or limit residential development on those first floor levels that end up essentially deactivating that street frontage and creating a blank space or a quiet space along active commercial downtown areas, and whether or not that was something that was a good thing or a bad thing. In general, it's something that's been seen as a concern in municipalities across the country, something that they have typically regulated and prevented. There is a shift in the thinking across the country on that because a lot of municipalities have really expanded that idea out to a good portion of their city with that first, larger cities and that first floor commercial and not allowing any residential. Augusta has done none of that, and really all we're talking about is just the downtown Water Street area and trying to protect that vitality that's been created over the last 15 years down there by making sure the upper floors get filled, but that frontage along Water Street is active commercial.
Allison, did you have initial reaction?
Well, yeah, I'm confused though. Betsy, I thought after the gentleman came to us and they were going to renovate the granite, beautiful old post office building downtown, and they had one of their apartments was coming down onto Water Street. So I thought as soon as they left, that we decided that we were not going to allow first floor apartments on Water Street. I thought that was something that we dealt with.
There's no
was never
ordinance
implemented.
change that enforces that, yeah.
You may have talked about it, but I don't know if it happened.
There's
Nothing
no
happened.
change,
And
yeah.
there is certainly in the
I mean, I think it's a conditional use though, so maybe that's where the
in the comprehensive plan.
flexibility could come in, with the conditional use that we feel that this is not something that fits the neighborhood
Sure.
of residential.
The question is whether or not you want more certainty than just the conditional use criteria in this part of the city.
Right, yeah. I mean, but I think in that instance, it was a lot of units, so it was a conditional use at that point, yeah. But there's
Never
no,
formalized it. Rats.
And there's certainly a great deal of discussion about commercial activity on the Water Street level in the comprehensive plan, and a lot of discussion about upper story residential. There's no discussion about encouraging that Water Street level to become residential. And it would seem like a wise thing for the city to protect against. There certainly has been, obviously, the old federal building that almost converted over to residential on that first floor level. There have been a couple of other conversations that we've had internally with individuals who have talked about converting those over to residential on that first floor level. Certainly, you've done some in the past 4 or 5 years. There was the Vickery building, where the property owner made the conscious decision to leave the first half of that first floor, the front half of it that faces Water Street, as commercial, and allow the back half to go to residential. That seems like a reasonable compromise to enable residential to occur on that level, but not be something that reduces traffic and foot traffic and that comfort level that you get when you walk around a commercial area rather than
Looking in somebody's window as you're.
exactly, yes.
Kathy?
Just concerned about business owners who have got businesses who haven't been able to attract commercial on that first floor. And they already invested in a building and may not be able to find an attractive tenant to make it work. And I just think we're tying those hands when they made those investments in good faith to invest in the city. So what do we say to them if it's been 5 years and they haven't been able to rent out the space? I think we should have a no residential on the first floor. If I were to vote today, that's what I'd vote for. But I'm just concerned about the impact on current property owners.
Yeah.
Can't rent it out commercially.
There's certainly, one, you certainly have the comprehensive plan to back up as a policy standard. And I agree, when you make this sort of decision to fit into the policy recommendations of the comprehensive plan, it does potentially have an impact on a property owner. Anytime you regulate someone's property, it has an impact on them. Like I say, there's certain ways you can mitigate some of that. Like I say, the Vickery proposal was a pretty solid compromise, I would say, for the property owner to be able to rent out the back half for residential, and that front half of the building still be available for commercial. I'm not sure that you necessarily have a great deal of, I don't know of anybody who has attempted to fill one of those spaces for long periods of time and been unable.
I agree with that.
Okay,
there's
it was just a question.
And if someone was to come into that and it was downtown, and if they were parked in a corner, that owner could choose to sell if it wasn't cash flowing the way that they wish
Right.
it would. But I don't know how much conversation we have to have on this, but it seems to make reasonable sense to just keep commercial on the main floor. Yes, if there's a opportunity that someone wanted to do a back half so it wouldn't impact the look and feel of the downtown
Yeah.
to Resi, fine.
long as
But
the
I don't know if we all have to say the same thing. I mean, do we want to just say, does everyone agree with that? Or is there any concerns with keeping downtown looking that way? I'm just trying to,
I mean, if everybody's good with that,
Point.
I can put some language together for the board to look at next time, so you have some
That would be a
specific
good
language.
compromise.
With this one, because it did not have specific direction from the council except to look at the issue.
yeah.
I wanted to get the feel of the board before I actually put some ordinance language together, but I can put some ordinance language together for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm 100%
okay with
behind that.
And so this sounds like we're on the same page, keeping the first floor as commercial, and then subsequent floors can be res. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Except for if there's opportunity
facing.
for the back
Okay,
To be Resi, so be
to,
it.
but it wouldn't show for the Water Street side. That would still be
Right.
commercial.
I agree with that.
Okay,
All right.
good.
That's easy. That one was easy.
And thanks for your time to explain all this. Sorry with all the questions. I'm
No, that's what I'm here for, and sometimes I don't have good answers, see?
So just moving these items forward, I don't know if we want to think that we could meet in 2 weeks, a more workshop, or if we need a little more time to the next meeting in June.
Not on this one.
Would you want to go to a public hearing on this one in June?
It seems like this one's pretty
Yeah.
straightforward. So yeah, if
I
that's
can
your
put,
workflow.
I can certainly put language together, that can be put forward to a public hearing. Obviously, if you want to change that at the public hearing, you can change it.
Right.
Right, yeah.
And move from there.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that would be June 9th, would be a public hearing for
Okay.
this downtown housing.
Okay.
But the other item, would we want to?
Workshop at that day?
Workshop at that same meeting, or in
Yes.
2 weeks?
I guess depending on how extensive that next
I mean-
agenda is, but
Do you have
yeah.
another meeting in 2 weeks scheduled already? Do you have other
It's a
other items?
placeholder, no.
You don't have other items.
Oh, okay. So we would have time on that agenda that you're saying
You'd have
right
a
now.
lot of time to talk about it in 2 weeks.
All of the time.
I mean, on May 26th, it's the day after
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. So I don't know, I didn't know about people's availability. But, yeah, so if we wanted, we could do a workshop in 2 weeks, or we could, on the 26th, or we could wait till the 9th and workshop on that
It's up
night.
to you on timing to pull that
I would,
information.
from a timing perspective, I'd prefer to do it quicker.
Okay.
Just
Then
for the,
great.
for the city council's
Okay.
purposes, so that we can get something
sounds-
back to them quicker.
Okay.
So this is my last meeting. I'm closing on a property on June 5th. In Bangor.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Congratulations on the
Yeah.
new baby coming too
Yeah, baby
also.
Bo. Yeah, baby boy, baby Bo. So
Congratulations,
triplex.
Ben. New baby.
Wow, you've got a lot of
Thank
changes
you.
coming, Ben.
I'll learn a lot of skills. That's
You'll have skills, yes.
Patience.
Yeah.
Bangers gain, our loss.
Yes, I'm very thankful. So I've really appreciated working with all of you. You've taught me a lot. And this has been an incredible opportunity. And the city of Augusta has done an exceptional job, the planning team and economic development. So I'm very proud to have worked with all of you. So
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Likewise.
Yeah. So, yeah, this will be my last meeting. I'll send you guys all an email, and, yeah,
Thank you very much for your service.
thank you. I appreciate all.
These unless you have a
you.
replacement in mind.
Yeah, I was actually gonna mention that, like, if we will have a replacement in mind already or whatever. I'm hoping so. I hope the mayor has something planned, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, the minutes,
Yeah. I have this note, no errors. Now, someone else will probably find some,
Yeah.
right? I've got these
I didn't
no
find,
errors.
I didn't find any either.
Kathy must have.
I had a point of clarification I wanted to
All
ask
right.
on the very first line on page 3, where Mandy says, wants the bank removed. I wasn't clear exactly what that meant.
She didn't want to list a specific bank.
The bank name.
Right, in case they changed who they were going
Right.
through, there'd be some flexibility.
Once the
That
bank
just be
name
clarified a
removed?
little bit.
Just bank name?
Okay.
And why did I circle that?
Mine will start. See here.
The city left us? Did they shut off the TV?
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Betsy's
Yeah,
cleaning
I don't
up.
know why I wrote this other note, so I guess I won't bring it up then.
Okay.
All right.
I move to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Any discussion? All in favor? Very good. And last motion?
To adjourn.
Second, all in favor? Very good.
Thank
Nice meeting tonight, guys.
Good meeting tonight.
Have a great evening.
Yeah.